not a test.
Alright everybody, welcome to Disclosuretv. It's been a while. I've been doing stuff. For some reason, my OSB's just giving me problems, man. It's giving me problems. So anyway, it's been a while since I've been live. And you know why? Because I got banned off of another place, and now I'm on YouTube, and I tried to fix that, and DLive was supposed to be different than YouTube, and they ended up banning people just the same as YouTube is, even though their whole platform was based on that, and it was just a horrible thing. Anyway, so I've been working on a few things over the last couple weeks, and I do have a lot of news to cover. So it's going to be a lot of news. So I hope you're ready for it. That's not a lot of news. I got some good stuff, though. So for everybody watching, welcome to Disclosuretv News. Let's get started, shall we? So we're going to go ahead and start with the asteroid warning the asteroid drill that NASA and the ESA, the European Space Agency, did over the last week. I think it was up until May 2nd, from April 29th to May 2nd. They did a drill that simulated a asteroid impact. And actually, they do it every year. They've done it every year since 2016. And it's really the department that does that it's part of NASA, but the actual department that does it is they report to is actually the Air Force. And you can actually look up that drill, and you can look up the other drills that they've done in the past on YouTube under the Planetary Defense Conference. So not only is the Air Force part of that, but the Department of Energy and its subsidiary Department of Nuclear, the nuclear department, part of the Department of Energy, also oversees the asteroid drill because of their use of nuclear weapons for the drill itself. So they are all part of that. So millions of people evacuate in dire ESA impact simulation. An asteroid threatening to wipe out a city the size of Tokyo will force millions of people to flee for their lives, and a European agency impact simulation is revealed. The European Space Agency and NASA have teamed up to prepare for the impact a monstrous asteroid could have on the Earth. Part of the asteroid warning drill involves an international social media campaign to simulate the actions space agencies, scientists, and government would take part. Now, this is the first time they've actually used social media to simulate this drill. The other times, they all go to a big huge meeting, and they all go to this big huge conference hall, and they sit there for a couple days. And they do this. So starting on April 29th and the ending on May 3rd, ESA had the hypothetical doomsday scenario imagined for the year 2028. Alongside the drill, ESA has released a brief mock-up documentary showcasing the moment an asteroid is found to be headed for the planet. So this is that video that they started showing.
The next data dump from the Flyout network has arrived. It's essential we get the correct impact time.
I'm working on it.
The flyers are proving their worth today.
In 2019, ESA began building a network of fly-eye telescopes to detect and follow asteroids. Without this, Europe wouldn't have the necessary data to react wisely to any future forecast impact like this one.
It's looking as if the trajectory is...
Yes. The impact corridor is narrowed and confirmed. It's going to hit in the South Pacific.
So no evacuations needed.
ESA is taking action to help keep Europe safe and resilient from hazards like space weather, Earth-grazing asteroids, and risky space debris. Now is the time for decisions.
So, during that simulation, a team of astronomers from the European Space Agency in Germany discovered a rock 656 feet across, hurtling towards Earth. The asteroid is 10 times as big as the infamous 2013 Shlabonsky meteor, which you all have seen videos of that. The scenario imagine the asteroid will hit Earth somewhere in between Tokyo and Copenhagen in just 24 hours, blah, 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 blah. So anyway, if you all look at another video, if you all look at the other video I made of an impact, is NASA hiding an impact, an asteroid impact, that tells a little bit different story about how people think that NASA may be preparing for an impact and is hiding it. Now, a lot of people think that Apophis is going to be part of that. They actually think that Apophis is going to be part of that. And really, they aren't. Apophis has been around for a long time. It's said to be going to hit or pass the Earth by 19,000 miles. And in all actuality, the NASA is not going to tell you that a mile-wide space rock is headed towards the Earth, and they're going to use that as, they used Apophis as the for the Planetary Defense Conference example. And Apophis, that's, it's just scary, and the reason it got so much attention was because of Neil deGrasse Tyson, and he basically made Apophis, and made Apophis famous. So it was said that Apophis was going to give a 1 in 100,000 chance the asteroid would hit Earth. So it's not the ones NASA speaks about that you should be worried about. It's the ones that they don't mention, like 1999 AN10. That's the other video that I tell you about that shows you what NASA may be hiding. Because if you go back and look at the Planetary Defense Conference, or NASA's other mission or exercise from 2017, It just so happens that 1999 AN10 lines up perfectly with that. So, a 1,300-foot wide asteroid that was first thought to miss Earth by an even closer than 16,000 miles after a path was projected. NASA never said another word about it until scientists in 2013 mentioned it. And let me fix my camera. Anyway, sorry about that. So, the 2017 Planetary Defense Conference actually lined up perfectly with 1999 AN10, which is a 2,600 foot wide asteroid that was first thought to miss Earth by an even closer 16,000 miles. Now, this is the one they're not telling you about. They keep telling everybody that Apophis is going to be the closest ever to come to Earth, when it's not. The closest and largest, and it's not. After a path was projected, NASA never said another word about it, about 1999 AN10. It was founded in 1999. After then, NASA never said another word about it. You can barely find any information about it, along with a few scientists, independent scientists, talked about it in blogs in 2013, and another astrophysicist actually found the path that it was going to take. So until scientists in 13 never said a word about it until scientists in 2013 mentioned it, where it was said that the simulations and calculations give it a 96% chance to hit in 2024. Now, if a lot of people don't remember, in another video, in a couple videos, especially from Marfugel or other truther videos, something big is going to happen in 2024. It just so happens that the Planetary Defense Conference is running a simulation from 2017, and everything they said in 2017 is actually happening, and it's actually true. The mission that they're going on is actually true. The NEOWISE mission is to try to move 1999 AN10 out of the way. The projected path of 1999 AN10 is somewhere on the other side of China. And it's been said that a part of Earth during this time will be affected, and it would be unrecognizable. So, this is Apophis's path. You can't hardly see it, but if you look to the right of the globe, you'll see a little red dot, and a little. It's really dark red, and once it comes into the light, you'll see it, and that's Apophis's path, and it's supposed to be 16,000 miles. Or, 19 to 20,000 miles away from the Earth's surface, when in all actuality, Apophis is not going to hit at all. The one that I figured out that they're worried about is one that comes even closer. When they first projected it, was 1999 AN10. Now, that asteroid that 99A and 10 orbits the Earth twice a year. The sun's orbit pulls it closer into the Earth's orbit twice a year. So, I had in the video about the hidden asteroid mission, is NASA having a hidden mission? Yes, they are. They do have a hidden mission, and they're disguising it as these exercises, when the one from 2017, the mission from 2017, is actually happening. And you can go watch that, and you can look up everything. You can look up everything that's happening in the video, and everything that's happening as an exercise only. You can actually look it up NEO-wise. You can look up the program. You can look up the satellites, the impactors, the kinetic impactors. That's what they're called, kinetic impactors. And you can look all that up from the video from the 2017, and it shows you. And you can look all that up. You can watch the video that I have also. So to go on further with that, NASA manned moon mission shock. Mike Pence 5-year pledge stuns space agency. NASA has been directed to return mankind to the moon by 2024 by Mike Pence. This video came out the other day. So Mike Pence brought out a video the other day, and he wanted to get there. They wanted to get there by 2028, 4 years earlier than previously planned, which makes it 2024.
Just as the United States was the first nation to reach the moon in the 20th century, so too will we be the first nation to return astronauts to the moon in the 21st century. And I'm here on the President's behalf to tell the men and women of the Marshall Space Flight Center and the American people that at the direction of the President of the United States, it is the stated policy of this administration and the United States of America to return American astronauts to the moon within the next 5 years. And let me be clear. The first woman and the next man on the moon will both be American astronauts, launched by American rockets from American soil. The President has directed NASA and Administrator Jim Bridenstine to accomplish this goal by any means necessary. In order to succeed, we must focus on the mission over the means. You must consider every available option and platform to meet our goals, including industry, government, and the entire American space enterprise. History is written by those who dare to dream big and do the impossible.
You have given us a charge today, and it is right on time. And I want to say thank you for that vision and the leadership. Our agency, NASA, is going to do everything in its power to meet that vision, to meet that deadline, and you have my full commitment to achieving that. And Mr. Vice President, I can tell you, I am confident we can get to that first launch in 2020 for SLS and actually fly a crew capsule around the moon.
So not only are they in 2024 is 1999 AN10 going to make its closest approach to the Earth at 16,000 miles, but also NASA's in a huge hurry to get to the moon by 2024. Now, before I show you that, I actually have some other stuff, but I'm going to show it to you later because, that's enough news. That's enough news about space. NASA the USGS actually cut off all the spectrogram feeds after huge swarms of earthquakes hit Yellowstone. An increase in seismic activity has been noticed at the park, along with hydrothermal vents that were once extinct. Earthquake swarms every once in a while are nothing new, but constant earthquake swarms are new. The spectrogram shows magma movement during each swarm. Last month, the swarms caused a very large amount of magma to inch its way close to the surface. Over the past 2 years, the Yellowstone caldera has risen 2 feet in a 5-mile radius, which is a lot. Imagine a 5-mile radius, the whole ground moving 2 feet in a 5-mile radius, which doesn't sound like much, but when you actually show the amount of dirt that is displaced, then you have some idea of how spectacular that movement actually is. And an update, I added in this update to from Mary Greeley. If y'all don't know who that is, it's Mary Greeley News. She does nothing but studies Yellowstone. She keeps an eye on Yellowstone for everybody. She's a great YouTuber. She does a great job. Since then, the USGS has Mary Greeley mentioned that earthquakes had the spectrograms were cut off, and she speculated why they were cut off, and that was because the spectrograms would show massive magma movement, and the USGS didn't want the public to see that, which the USGS does hide data from the public per Obama. So Obama did sign a executive order to hide data from the USGS, but that's not the only reason why. That's not the main reason why they hide data. The main reason why goes back to an earthquake that happened in Seattle, where Seattle lost something like $2 billion in tourist funds. So because of money, people will get hurt because the USGS doesn't want to report it. Now, I do have an email from the USGS asking them why they did that, and they felt they didn't want to. The director told me out of their own mouths that they didn't want to share that information, not because it was classified, but because they just didn't want to tell me. Glenda Turner, thanks for watching. I appreciate it. Sorry I'm a little late on that. So next we're going to go into what's happening with our government. A lot of stuff, man. A lot of stuff's going on. We got stuff going on at the border. We got stuff going on in Venezuela. We got stuff going in across in the Middle East. If I say the word, then if I say any type of word, the video is going to get shadow banned. It's already been shadow banned. I've been banned off of DLive. I've been banned off Twitter's already shadow banned me, and they actually admitted to it. I actually have the proof that they shadow banned me because I caught a government organization that's not supposed to be there in Venezuela. I caught the government organization on camera involved in some activities they shouldn't have been involved in. And the government shadow banned me on Twitter. So, a new White House briefing. I'm sure that I'm a little late on some of this, but you know what? I'm going to report it anyway because there's things that I find that a lot of people miss that's really important. On midnight, I think Sunday night, John Bolton issued a White House press release stating that the U.S. had deployed the USS Abraham Lincoln to the Gulf. And here is a video showing them headed towards the Gulf. Or I did have one. I don't know where it's at. I don't know why it's not showing, but I have it. Oh, wait, I changed the name of it, so hold on. I changed the name of the video. Give me 1 second. I'll put it up there. There we go. So after now here's the weird messed up thing. After Israeli intelligence warned that the Iranian government would issue orders to its Iranian Revolutionary Guard to attack the U.S. Navy, the Israeli intelligence warned the U.S. that Iranian government was going to attack the U.S. So Bolton mentioned they would deploy a bomber strike group to the area right after that. Now I think they ordered a whole squadron, a whole unit to the Gulf of Mexico, or the Persian Gulf. I'm sorry. So in one of the photos released, it showed one of the aircraft carriers loaded with several MOABSs, which those are Moabs. They call those the mother of all, explosive devices. And those are the largest non-nuclear bombs I didn't mean to say that, in the military stockpile. This comes after the U.S. convinced the UN to name the Iranian, I shouldn't even said that, Revolutionary Guard and its military counterparts as a T group. The U.S. then sanctioned Iran's oil supply, dwindling it down to nothing. Other countries such as China and Russia have stepped up oil exports to Iran since then. The Iranian Prime Minister, in a meeting with government officials and parliament, is on a media blitz campaign. Now, I have a video. It's a horrible video, and it's not bad, but what they say is horrible. So I'm going to let you watch that video. And this is what the Iranian parliament was doing after John Bolton sent the strike force group to the Persian Gulf. So if you're wondering what they're chanting in that video, they're chanting "Death to America." That's the Iranian parliament chanting "Death to America." That's right after National Security Advisor Bolton sent the task force group to the Persian Gulf, along with the nuclear bomber group. And I have some more news on that. So remember what I'm telling you about that. All right. So I've got some news to add in onto that. It's going to be a little later. And so remember that John Bolton released an update at midnight on Sunday night, and he actually woke up the president to tell him that the Iranian government planned on attacking U.S. Navy forces. Okay, so remember that. So as I said before, the video you just watched was the Iranian parliament. I'm going to show it to you again. They're all chanting death to America. This isn't good, because when you have a whole parliament, a whole government, and their parliament and or Congress shouting that, it's not going to be good. You know something bad's going to happen. And something bad almost happened, but it wasn't their fault. It wasn't the Iranians' fault. And I'm going to show you that in a minute. Now, I don't have my green screen up. Sorry about that. So, the U.S. State Department says a planned meeting between a U.S. Secretary of State and... the U.S. State Department says a planned meeting between U.S. Secretary of State and Mike Pompeo and Chancellor Angela Merkel has been suddenly canceled. And there's an update going to come on that, and Pompeo was due to meet Merkel and German Foreign Minister Heiko Maas in Berlin on Tuesday. And I want you to remember that. That's the part I want you to remember that part as well, because Mike Pompeo, the very next day, canceled a meeting, and or 2 days, a day and a half later, canceled a meeting to go see Angela Merkel of Germany, and Germany is actually our ally, so for them to go do that, something was up. And an update comes later on with that, so like I said again. So, on to what happened with Israel. Palestinian militants in Gaza Strip randomly fired more than 600 rockets into southern Israel in less than 24 hours, killing at least 10 Israelites and leaving several more in critical condition or wounded. Now, if y'all don't know what the Gaza Strip is and what Gaza is, Israel owns half of the Gaza Strip, and the Palestinian government wants the whole thing, but they own half of the city, and then the Israelis own half the city. So they bomb each other from each half of the city, basically. And there's really no government from once in that city. I think it's just a huge city. So there may be some government there. There may be government buildings there. I don't know. So here's a video of that happening. The video that you're looking at right now is missiles being fired from the Gaza Strip. So that's just some of them, you know. Now the thing is that both countries fire randomly into it. From one side of the Gaza Strip to the other, they fire randomly into the city. The city split exactly in half. So the flare-up comes after 4 Palestinians in the Gaza Strip were killed on Friday at protests erupted along the Israeli border. So there were 2 Palestinian militants were killed by sniper fire. Were killed by sniper fire by the Israelis on the Gaza Strip. Israeli officials stated that their network of Iron Dome successfully destroyed over 70 of the incoming rockets. The Iron Dome is a replica of the US's THAAD anti-missile system. And I think the Iron Dome was created by the United States. I'm pretty sure they did make that. And I think that the United States did sell Israel 2 of their THAAD missile systems, maybe a stripped down version of it, because they didn't want their they didn't want them to have their I guess their full software and hardware and all that. So here's a pic of what the Iron Dome does. Now, when if you look at this picture, you can see from one side, like I said, this is a city split in half. And if you look, you can see missiles being fired from one side, which the right side is the Gaza Strip, is the Palestinians. And on the left side, you can see what the Iron Dome is doing. It's firing missiles. It's launching missiles to intercept. And the U.S., there's been controversy over that for some reason from Russia. Russia doesn't want it there. I have no idea why. Russia actually said that if they deployed a THAAD missile system in Europe, that they would pretty much go to war. I've never seen nothing, heard it. That's stupid. I mean, it's just an anti-missile system. So I'm going to show you what that looks like. I'm going to show you what the Iron Dome does. And here's a video of that.
עוד 3, עוד 3. וואי, וואי, וואי.
If you watch, those missiles are being destroyed mid-air. Those explosions are the Iron Dome missiles destroying the other missiles. And that's basically what the THAAD system does in the United States. They're deployed in Alaska, here, Alaska, somewhere in California, and maybe San Diego, and I think there's a few on the East Coast as well. So the Israel responded in kind Saturday by launching 250 rockets along with tank fire at military targets in Gaza, killing 25 people. The Israeli Defense Force targeted Hamad Kaddouri in Gaza. And I actually have that video. So Hamad Kaddouri was responsible for transferring Iranian money to Hamas and Jihad. The funds were used to build hundreds of rockets that were fired at Israel during an attack. The rockets that were fired at Israel were actually homemade rockets. So the video that you're watching is the Israeli Defense Force taking out that guy that made all the attack possible, pretty much. And this is a close-up video of what happened. The guy was traveling in a car, and basically that's what you're seeing there is the remnants of that targeted attack on. The guy was a terrorist. So during that time, I'm going to show you a video. It's kind of loud, so I'll turn it down on my end. But it is during. It's what it's kind of. It's going to show you what it's like during a missile attack there. So this is the video of a family that was caught in the middle of that attack, of the Palestinian-Israel attack. Wrong video. Wrong video. So the family was driving down the road, and when the attack started, this is Saturday, so this is on a Saturday, so this is either, I don't know if this is Israel, if it's which side of the Gaza Strip it's on. Not sure, because on Saturday both sides let off rockets. So if you didn't see that, you know, that's what's happening. People are randomly firing into each other's city. They don't care who they hit. That target was basically a field. That's what it was. So they didn't care what they hit. So after a weekend of violence on Monday, both sides declared a ceasefire. Once again, the United States strongly condemns the attack on Israel. Well, they actually didn't do nothing to help them either. Well, basically, because Israel doesn't have any oil. So, isn't that just a lot of... So on May 5th, a video surfaced of terrified passengers in Russia on a burning plane. The video shows horror inside a burning plane, which made an emergency landing at Sheremetyevo Airport in Moscow. The fire killed at least 13 people, including 2 children. And this is the picture of the plane on fire inside the video. So the people in this plane recorded the video and sent it out. I don't know if this person made it. I don't know if they tweeted. I know they tweeted it out, but I don't know if the person made it. But I do know the plane was on fire in midair. And there is actually another video. I do have it. I can probably show it to you. It's a video of the plane. Here it is. So this is what the video on the outside looks like. That's the video coming across the tarmac. So the person inside the video you just watched was in that plane filming. And yeah, 13 people died in that. And it just so happens on the same exact day, another plane that left from Las Vegas crashed in Mexico. It was headed to somewhere in Mexico, but and it caught on fire. That plane also caught on fire and crashed in Mexico. So I don't know if that's, if those two are related. I don't have a clue. Yeah, I never did hear anything else about that one. So on to the big NK. North Korea. They've been quiet for some time now. I think to be honest, I think they were waiting on the United States to give them a bunch of money. I believe they were. And I think, because that's usually since the 80s, 70s, 80s, 90s, they stopped it in the 90s. Every time North Korea would launch a couple ICBMs, the United States would make a deal with them, give them some money or some food aid, or both, and then they would stop for a little while, and then they would do it again because they wanted more money. Well, Donald Trump said, "Screw that! You're not getting it this time," and basically, that's what's going on, and basically, North Korea knows they're not going to get any money from this president. And that's a good thing, because all the other presidents just gave them money to shut up. But actually, something else has come to light about those other, about where North Korea is getting their missiles from, their ICBMs and their missiles. So, new images from the space station show that North Korea test fired another ballistic missile called the Songun Ikander. I'm going to assume that is Icelander, or the Songun Islander, maybe. So, this is the image that Planet.com, it's a satellite imagery company, they caught North Korea shooting off another missile. It was a short-range missile. North Korea test launched a short-range ICBM on Saturday around 11 a.m., May 4th. John Bolton advised the president. So, this is what that missile looks like. This is actually a picture of North Korea shooting off the missile. And I said it a long time ago. This particular part, I said it a long time ago. A commercial satellite image captured by Planet over North Korea Hodo Peninsula at 10:54 a.m. local time on May the 4th. Analysts at the Middlebury Institute of International Studies believe it shows the launch point and exhaust trail of a short-range ballistic missile test. It would seem that North Korea launched a Russian missile. They look exactly the same. In past videos, I mentioned that North Korea doesn't have the money or the means to create weaponry of this caliber. And they don't. I don't think they even have the facilities to do this. I based that info on old occurrences that occurred just before North Korea tests their first ICBM in years. So the first, 2 years ago, they tested they all of a sudden tested ICBMs out of nowhere. And that's around 2016, which is the same year Trump took office. And for some odd reason, Russia started having a problem with the United States. So, so I noted in one of my earlier videos when I first started that Russia actually... Russia come out publicly and said that they were during that launch, or right when the day before they were that North Korea launched, they were their military, the Russian military, was training near the border of North Korea, which the area also contains one set of train tracks connecting the two countries. So I believe that Russia is transferring ICBMs to North Korea. And I think this right here proves it, because I'm going to show you what a Russian missile, the Russian Icelander, looks like. So this is the picture on your left that you're looking at is the Russian Icelander. The picture on your right, the up close, is a picture of North Korea's missile that they launched, their ICBM. Both are exactly the same, and I do mean exactly. And I said it once before, I believe that Russia is supplying missiles to North Korea, and the U.S. government knows that they're doing it. You know, that's why they're not going to say anything. They're not going to accuse, the United States government's not going to accuse Russia of doing that, even though this is enough proof. I mean, it's exactly the same rocket. And nobody has actually caught on to this, I don't think. But as I said before, the ICBMs that North Korea let off before was almost an exact match to the Russians' ICBMs. Yeah, Glenda, both missiles are identical. I've said it time and again. Russia is playing a big part in all this stuff that's going on all over the world, because Russia seems to be involved with North Korea. They're involved with Iran, Syria. Every time the United States gets involved with a country that Russia says basically, no, you better not. Russia's also involved in Venezuela. They're also involved in Cuba. They've been involved with Cuba since the 70s. So it would seem that North Korea launched a Russian Icelander. They look exactly the same in past videos, as I mentioned. South Korea's military reported that various projectiles flew from 44 to 149 miles before splashing down in the Pacific Ocean. The activity prompted the 35th Fighter Wing in Misawa Air Base in northern Japan, and they also tweeted out to their citizens, "Missile inbound." So they tweeted out "missile inbound" to several million people in Japan. And the tweet was soon followed by an all clear and an enjoy your Saturday. That's what the Japan said. So from what I gather, the United States has a huge problem with more than one country. All of a sudden, 99% of the time, Russia backs the opposite country. And that's what I was just saying. And that's odd. Why do I have a feeling Russia may be involved in trying to get the United States to go to war? And I believe they are. I believe they're trying to get, the United States to do something bad. But at the same time, I don't know if that's true, but it just seems, as it's a 100% known fact that all the countries that the United States is having a problem with right now, Russia is involved with those countries too. And what comes to mind in all that is, I've been saying it all along, is Red Dawn. If you know what the movie Red Dawn is, or if you don't, I would suggest you watch it. So, satellites in space. All right. So this isn't a headline that the mainstream media is covering, or anybody's covering themselves. But I've covered it in an early video because I know there's something up with it. I know there's something up with all the space launches. I know there's something up with all the satellites they're sending up. I know there's something up with all the space missions. There is something that is up with all of that. Something's going on. Some people believe an asteroid strike. Some believe that something's going to happen. Something is going to happen to the planet. To where we need to put a base on the moon or a base on Mars. They actually reported a few months ago that the moon was within the Earth's atmosphere, and the moon retains more water and oxygen than they thought previously. And in one of my earlier videos, I proved that the United States government knew that the Earth was in, or the moon was in the Earth's atmosphere since 1971. And they've also known that water was on the moon during that same time. Apollo 16 and 17 missions, where they drilled down 8 feet into the lunar surface. Now, the new article that come out stated that that scientists found evidence of water every time an asteroid impact happened. Well, those asteroid impacts went only down 2 feet. They caused a 2 feet indention, and every time those those indentions happened, or those asteroids impacted the ground, it sunk down 2 feet and water come up. Now, Apollo 17 used drilled core samples that were 8 feet down, and then they stuck explosives in those drill holes to do seismic activity. So if they knew that, if they saw that there was water 2 feet under the ground, then in Apollo 16 and 17, during the 1970s, they drilled down 8 feet. They knew there was water then too, and they said that the moon is losing about 200 tons of water a year. And based on that, them saying that for the last few years, it's been losing 200 tons a year for the last few years. That means that the moon has always had water. So this next article has to deal with all the satellites. Now, most of the articles you read from the mainstream media say that there are about 2,000 satellites operating in space. I have no idea why they say this. Don't have a clue. After an uptick in rocket launches, and I do mean a huge uptick, I'm talking well over 1,000%. And it's actually a whole lot bigger than you think it is. And the launches are actually a whole lot more than people think there are. And so the United States went from having, in the 90s, they went from having 1, 2, 3, 4 launches a month. And in the early 2000s, and between 2000 and 2010, the launches, they had about 8, maybe 8 or 9 launches. So they only increased by a few from 90s to the 2000s. Now, over the last 2 years, since 2016, there was a huge, huge increase in rocket launches. And it's pretty extensive. It's a pretty huge increase. And, I want to show you this real quick before I do this article. I wasn't going to talk about it, but I'm going to. So the increase has went from the 12 a month, roughly from 2010 to up to 2015, somewhere around that. And it's increased to at least 4 launches, or more per day for the last 2 years. At least 4 launches a day. And you're probably wondering why you don't hear more about them. If you look at what you're seeing on the screen, those are all, if, you know, I have to go down, I have to scroll down a little further, but everything you're seeing on your screen right there are all bases that the United States launches rockets from to go to space. All those. All those. I didn't count how many, but there's well over 50. Some of them are even in the middle of the ocean at islands between South America and Africa. There's an island out there in the middle of that. There's also at least 5 bases, 5 launch pads in Antarctica that they launch from. Yeah, Glenda, they're sending up rockets on 4 or 5 times a day now. And they're claiming every one of them are satellites. So you're talking at least right here on this one page, probably 50. These are the ones just owned by the United States. Now they are using the Netherlands, New Zealand. I know they're using New Zealand. They're using all these, and they're probably launching more than that. To be honest, they probably are. But the ones I counted that I could count for myself, they're launching at least 4 or 5 times a day now. And every one of them are communication satellites. Now, so let me go back to that. So, Glenda, you actually have a good view of all the satellites. I'm about 15 seconds behind on the video, so about 15 seconds after somebody types something, then I'll answer back. So most of the articles, as I said, you'll read about satellites, they say that there's about 2,000 satellites operating in space. I found that there are a little more than 2,000 satellites in space. There's more than 2,000. Try more like 20,000 plus. And that's not including space debris. So there's so many satellites. I'm going to show you this picture. This is actually a live, this is taken from a live view, which a company called Austria, it's ASTRIA.TACC.UTexas.edu. And it's a Texas university that keeps track of all the satellites and debris in space, and it does a live tracking, and I want to show you what that live tracking looks like. So, since this is, I think, according to 2018, some 4,900 satellites remain in orbit. They say there's a total of 8,100. But out of those, 1,900 were operational. That's not true at all. I'm going to show you how many satellites are actually in space. And this is live tracking as of 3 days ago. So if you could see this is from a Texas university. This is how many, and this is not all of them. This is I couldn't get the whole window. But past this view on the outer reaches, there's more. But in this one view, there's close to 20,000. There's close to 20,000 satellites in space. That's how many satellites are in space. And I can make it a little bit bigger. And the closer you look, you can't even see the Earth. The dots have covered the Earth, and you can't even see. You just see a round blob. So, they tell you that there's only 1,800. No, that's, like I said, that is a live view. That's a live view as of 3 days ago. And if you go to the website, Austria, just type up Austria, what you're reading there, and you can go to their website and see a live view for yourself. So for them to say that there's only about 2,000 or 1,400 active satellites in space, there's not. There's about 20,000. And they range from the size of school buses and houses, school buses, to the size of cereal boxes. And and some of these are the size of cereal boxes that are being tracked. And if you go to the website, the Austria, if you click on a dot, one of the dots, any of the dots, some of them are government satellites, and they won't tell you which way they track or the name of them. Well, it tells you which way they track, but it won't tell you the name of them. But a majority of them, it'll tell you who owns them and when it was launched and what they're for. So that's a lot. That's a lot of satellites. Now, you have to ask yourself, why, if there's over 20,000 satellites in space, why is the government launching 4 or 5 more satellites into space every day for the last 2 years? They're not. They're not launching that many more into space. Now, some of them may be satellites, don't get me wrong, but I believe they're actually building something in space. I believe they're building something. Something is going on. So many satellites are circling our planet that from far off, I'm sure that if you could actually see our planet, you probably couldn't see our planet, maybe. I don't know. I mean, maybe you could, maybe you couldn't. But you'd see a lot of things circling our planet. I don't know if UFOs would even come close to our planet, seeing as how many satellites we got in there. NASA says that all their satellites burn up in our atmosphere when they come back down. Apparently not. They left them all up there. So, it shows live. Like I said, it shows the website called Astria. I guess that's how you say it. It shows the tracking in real time, including what it is, the name of the satellite, the direction, the speed, the size, weight, who it belongs to, and not to mention when it was launched. So it provides you all that information if you click on one of the little satellites in the dots. If you click on one of those little dots, it tells you. So it even tracks live while you're looking at it. And it's odd that the mainstream media, NASA, and other scientists are telling you that there's only 2,000 satellites in space when you have a public school and their science program is tracking these satellites and they tell you that there's 20,000. It's odd that they would tell you that. I don't know why they're telling you that. I'm sure it has something to do with some kind of government crap. I'm sure it does. So, as I told you, they track. So I was actually wondering why we never see more objects streaming through our atmosphere like meteors. Because as the government says, the satellites burn up in our atmosphere when they are done with them. I'd say they have. Or they're headed there. I believe something's going on to the point to where, the government's building some kind of base or something, just, in case something bad happens to the earth, or if it could already be headed that direction. So, I didn't know if I was going to report on this next one or not, and I reported on it anyway. And nobody, not Marfugal, not any, not any other truther has this information that I'm getting ready to tell you. And I'm the only one that found this information, and I want to report it here. For the first time, I haven't told anybody about this, and it's about what happened in Colorado. So, I don't know if I want to say the full name because I don't want this video to be blocked, and I know they're going to want to block it if I say the name. So, Denver, Colorado. If you know what happened in Denver, Colorado the other day, something happened Tuesday inside of a Denver teaching building, not far from the Column and the Machinery Bond High School, not far from there. There was a gunfire there, which wounded 8 people before 2 students were taken into custody. Yes, Glenda, about that. So, the people at the school, which is known as STEM Academy. I hope they don't block that word. The Douglas County Sheriff, Tony Spurlock, said the 2 students, 18-year-old Devin Erickson and a underage student, walked into the teaching facility and opened fire into 2 rooms. He said only students ages 15 and older were wounded. So deputies responded within minutes from a nearby sheriff's department substation, entering the teaching facility as fire rang out. Police took 2 suspects, 1 adult and 1 juvenile, into custody with no injuries. A student next to the classroom from where the G-fire were going off. A student texted someone on her phone as the G-fire rang out, stating that the suspects had been tackled by 2 senior students. Here is the text message from that student. It states, it was in a classroom right next to us. I heard everything. She heard the bangs. We are in separate grades. Yes, I heard them. You know him? Was anyone hurt? And people screaming. Yes, some seniors tackled the guy who done it. Okay, there was blood on the floor. Anyone killed? So that was a text message from, she was texting, I guess, multiple people, a group text, and somebody named Maya. It says her cousin. So that was a girl from Girl Next Door where one of the seniors had tackled. Now, I had that text message about an hour after that happened. So, now, I'm going to show you, these are the suspects from the school. This is one guy. That's Devin Erickson. That's one of the guys. This is maybe the same person. I think it is. But the guy was actually supposed to be, he was a transgender. He was supposed to be transgender. That's what they said. So I don't know if the motive behind all that, I have no clue. So it was reported that the guy was transgender, and I don't know if they have anything to do with that. So, what I found out. Now, nobody knows about this. As a matter of fact, what I'm getting ready to show you, I don't know if I'm the only one who has it or not. And I'm going to show you proof of what happened. Now, on STEM Academy's Wikipedia page, strange edits appeared from April 29th, 2019. Just a week before this happened. The history section of the school talking about what programs were implemented in 2018. And that's the section it was in. The original edit read anti-suicide programs are implemented to help lower chances of suicide and school shootings. I don't think I'm allowed to say suicide. I don't know. Or school shooting, so I just probably screwed myself. So, if that was in a history section marked in STEM Academy's Wikipedia page. The edit made April 29th. This is what the edit had, April 29th. Now, nobody else has this. It says in the edit, which was made by some, it only shows the IP address, and that's a submask IP address. It shows in the same section, if you see here, revision as of 16th February 2009, there it doesn't show you anything. It shows you the difference. So in that same section on the 29th, a week prior, it says if you can read it for yourself, anti-programs are implemented to help lower chances of blank and school blanks. And it says, do they work? Shall we see? So a week before what happened, the week before what happened in the STEM school in Highlands Ranch, somebody edited the Wikipedia page on the 29th and asked the question, do they work? Shall we see? And I'm not sure if anybody else found out about this. Now, I do have another image of, to show you that this is legit. And let me see if I can find it. So this is the Wikipedia log. Now, a few minutes after somebody put this up, they took it off. So, a guy, if you look at the revision, the two revision numbers, Jack 90S15 undid the revision from the he undid the revision, and it shows the same submask IP address. If you look right there at the bottom of it, it shows you that they did edit it and added, it says plus 28 characters, I guess. I don't know if they did or they didn't, but this is proof that somebody on the 29th, I'm going to assume that no, it doesn't. Can you see the revision, or can you see the Wikipedia where, here, I'll enlarge it some more. Can you see it now? If you look at where on the right hand side where it says line 37 and go to 2018, the second 2018, and read that, and that addition at the bottom was made on the 29th of April 2019. So I don't know if the students who were part of the attack at that facility, I'm assuming that's who wrote that in there. Nobody knows about this except for me. I'm pretty sure. I'm the only one who's found this. And as you can see, the top article, at the top of the article, says STEM School Highlands Ranch, difference between revisions. And if you look at it, there's the original revision is on the left-hand side, and it shows you what it looked like before the revision and what it looked like after the revision. Now, you yourself can go look up this on Wikipedia. Now, it won't have this, it'll have all this on there, but you have to look it up. So whoever wrote this, whoever edited this on the 29th, I'm going to assume whoever added this was one of the students who fired on, was one of the students who was doing the firing. Now, I don't know if the FBI or the CIA knows about this. Don't have a clue. But as far as I know, I'm the only one that has it. So if you go back and look, at 5:48, the person, it was made at 5:48, April 29th, the revision was. And then at 5:49, the revision was taken off. That is a mediator for that section. Now, I went through the files of the Jack 90S. If you can see that, the guy who did the revision, who took the words, "Do they work? We shall see" off. The guy who took that off was the Jack 90S15, which is a moderator for Wikipedia. Now, I went through his files. To see what else he contributes to and what other sections he edits and what other sections he takes care of. The other sections that he takes care of has to deal with war, racism, a bunch of other violent stuff. So I don't know if that Jack 90S has anything to do with this. I don't have a clue. So now the Jack 90S guy, like I said, he's the one who undid the revision that I'm guessing that the person the kids that done the bad thing at the school, I'm assuming that they're the ones who put that on there, and then this Jack 90S15 took it off. Now, I don't know who that is. All I know is the person who wrote the edit on there only had a submask IP address, and you don't know who that is. So, yeah. So, I'm the only person who knows. I don't know if anybody else knows, but now you know. So, there's more to what's going on than what's going on, and the mainstream media is not going to tell you that. So, that tells me... So that's some screwed up. That's screwed up, and I doubt the mainstream media will report on this. But that's what I found so far, and that's some screwed up crap. So I don't know if anybody knew that it was going to happen, but it seems like a week prior to it happening, somebody knew it was going to happen. Apparently somebody knew. So, like I said, I know this is a long video, and I'm trying to get through it because I got a lot to cover, and I got a lot to make up for. So, if you bear with me, I'm almost done. So, nobody knows what I'm getting. This next thing, nobody knows this either. So there's a couple things on here that nobody knows yet. It's not out on the mainstream media. Except for one part of it. So China hacked the NSA while the NSA hacked while the United States was hacking China, which was the NSA was hacking China, China hacked the United States right back. So what happened and what did they get? And what they get is what nobody knows about. And I'm going to show you what they got. So over the last few days, many of you have been receiving phone calls from Chinese numbers. Millions of Americans have been receiving phone calls from Chinese numbers. Like I said. So a friend of mine sent me this. If you can see it, this is a copy of his call log. So what you're looking at is my friend sent me this, and I got on Twitter and I saw that other people was having the same problem, that over the last 2 days, Chinese people were calling them. My friend, his name is Adam, received over 246 phone calls in a matter of an hour from China. And that was just after. So the hacking happened in 2016. Now the article before that came out about the hacking, an article before that, not yesterday, but the day before is when the article came out. So a day after the article came out, everybody all over the United States started receiving these Chinese phone calls. His wife also received a similar amount, over 200.
Cyber attack gone awry.
Here's a video of
Cyber attack gone awry. Remember the WannaCry ransomware cyber attacks that hit back in 2017? Turns out those hackers used tools that were lifted from the NSA by the Chinese when the NSA was trying to attack Chinese systems. This emerging from a new Symantec report who says Chinese intelligence agents captured the tools and made tweaks to them before passing the technology along. Joining us now to discuss.
Now, you're wondering what they got. So how did this happen? So what do we know? We know that the NSA was hacking China. That led to the China hacking the NSA database. So we know what the NSA database has. The NSA, if you remember, Edward Snowden released classified files about what the NSA was doing, about all the FISA warrants and about the FISA warrants and how the NSA was tracking millions and millions and millions, hundreds of millions of people's cell phones. And they were recording the messages. They were turning on the cameras. They were taking pictures. They were copying text messages. So, a day later, after this happened, thousands of Americans received phone calls. So, it means, basically at the time, what this means is that the NSA when China hacked the NSA, when they hacked their database, all the phone numbers they had in their system, they snatched out of the NSA database's system, and they waited for the United States to report on it 2 years later. Or 3 years later. And once they reported on it, the Chinese did a big phone thing. So everything that you're seeing, every number that has been called in the recent days, if you've been called by a Chinese number over the last few days or the last week or so, all those numbers come from the NSA database. So if you've been called by the Chinese and you've gotten if you've gotten a recording, a voicemail from in Chinese, or received a phone call like what's on the screen there, your number, the NSA has your phone number and has been tracking your calls. That's where the Chinese government got all the phone numbers from. So, like I said, the NSA recorded millions of people's phone calls and all that. Well, if you remember that Edward Snowden released those prior to 2016, released evidence that they were doing it, which means the NSA either kept everybody's phone number in there and all their information, and or they're still tracking everybody's phone number. And I think the Chinese government called everybody are calling for a reason. Now, if you remember, Huawei, the United States accused Huawei of implanting chips into their cell phones, accused the Chinese government of implanting spying chips into their, the Chinese government implanted chips into Huawei cell phones, and then those cell phones were sold to customers in the United States. Now, the U.S. government 2 or 3 months ago arrested Huawei's CEO on a warrant for that espionage, conspiracy to commit espionage, and she was arrested in Canada and was awaiting extradition to the United States. And the Chinese government basically said, and that's how the trade war, all that trade war, more of the trade war crap got started, and they introduced sanctions on China and all that crap, and banned Huawei phones in the United States and all that. So the Chinese government decided to hack the NSA. And I think the reason the Chinese government started calling people was to show that the NSA, what the United States is accusing China of doing, I think the Chinese are trying to show that the United States government is still doing the exact same thing. Now, I know for a fact they are still doing it, and they've been doing it for a while without the FISA warrants either way. Either way. It really don't matter whether they have a warrant or not. And I've mentioned this in another video, and I'm going to show you how, or I'm going to show you what that's about. So why they don't need a warrant. So it is federal law that all communications devices have to be able to be accessed by law enforcement. That's a law for mobile phones. That's a law for mobile manufacturers, not citizens. So any communications device in the United States has to be accessed by law enforcement. That's why the FCC has all your IMEI numbers, and that's why you have to register those numbers. All those numbers go to the FCC. So basically, the United States government made a law that states that there has to be a back door in every single communications device in the United States. Now, if you go to the FCC's website and look up this information, it will tell you that what I'm telling you is true. That is separate than what a lot of people are going to say about what I'm telling you about, that all devices must accept interference. That's a separate law. This law has to deal with law enforcement specifically. So whether or not the federal government has a warrant, they can get into your phone anytime they want. It doesn't make a difference. It doesn't make a difference if they have a warrant. And I think that's why the Chinese started calling people all of a sudden, was to prove that the United States was doing it themselves. Give me 1 second. Give me 1 second. My freaking phone's dying, and I need it in the worst way. Okay, sorry about that. So anyway, You're probably thinking back to the U.S. claiming that the Chinese government had Huawei install a chip to access the phones for spying, and the U.S. got angry about it and made it a whole public thing, releasing all the information they had about Huawei and what Huawei did and why the U.S. never releases hardly anything. And what I think it was a ruse to avoid suspicion themselves. That's why they did the Huawei thing. They made it look like China did a very bad thing and no country should ever spy on their citizens, even though Edward Snowden proved that, and he did. And I think the rest, when all this happened, the Chinese just basically said, hey, well, you know what? We're going to prove you're a liar, and we're going to prove that you're doing it to your own people. So they hacked the NSA database, got everybody's phone number, and whenever it was time for them to do their thing, which was a couple of days after the NSA publicly came out and said we got hacked by the Chinese started calling everybody's phone and said, and they're basically going to come out. I guarantee you, the Chinese are going to come out and say, hey, well, all those numbers we called, we got them from the NSA database. And that's what they're going to do. So all the numbers that were called, that's what you call too much of a coincidence. That's not a coincidence that the NSA was hacked by the Chinese, and then all of a sudden millions of Americans all over the United States started getting phone calls from the country of China. That's not a coincidence. So now, this third thing, not a lot of people know about it either. So I don't know if anybody's going to watch this. I know it's a long-ass thing, and I'm sorry for that, like I said. So, I'll try to go as fast as I can. The next one is Iranian false flag by U.S. uncovered. Now, if you remember about Mike Pompeo leaving Angela Merkel in Germany, and he left. He canceled the meeting, all of a sudden left. Where did he go? And you know about the ships heading to the Persian Gulf, and you know that Michael Bolton said that there was a planned attack on the U.S. Navy vessels in the Persian Gulf, as I read earlier. As I spoke before, the topic in the United States sending ships and bombers to Iran because of threats to national security, sources say the national security matter was a U.S. false flag attack, kind of like what happened in 2001. But not here, but there. It was going to happen there on U.S. forces. So, the national security matter was a U.S. false flag attack on their own Navy ships, uncovered by Iranian forces. Unknown sources confirmed and first reported by Steve Ben Nun on Israeli News Live states that members of the Iranian opposition group People's Mahajan of Iran, who have ties to John Bolton, were arrested trying to purchase speedboats similar to the ones used by the Iranian Revolutionary Guard in the Persian Gulf. He received that info 16 hours prior to the mainstream media releasing a headline stating aircraft carriers sent to the Middle East after indications Iran planned to attack on U.S. forces. However, that's not the case. The People's Mahajan are loyalist thugs of the U.S. Basically, they're thugs for hire. And they're loyal to the U.S. the release, the report by the government twisted. The government twisted the report and the situation, thinking the info wouldn't get out. So they was like, basically, John Bolton ordered the Mahajan, the People's Mahajan, was ordered to carry out an attack on U.S. forces dressed as Iran's Revolutionary Guard. So, why does it matter about the Revolutionary Guard? Well, the United States made the Revolutionary Guard, which is the Iranian army, a terrorist group. So the Mahajan, who follows orders from John Bolton, and carries out missions for the United States government in Iran, was going to dress up as the Revolutionary Guards, as the Iranian military, and they were going to go out to the Persian Gulf where the U.S. Navy was at and attack those ships. That's called a U.S. false flag attack. So, the national security came from Israeli intelligence hours before Michael Bolton stated that they would use extreme force on Iran. Hours later, Mike Pompeo on a trip canceled a trip, and after the scheme was found out, Mike Pompeo canceled his trip to Germany. Well, he was in Germany and headed to Iraq. And he was called to Iraq in a hurry. So the John Bolton, they want to go to war so bad with Iran, they was going to make a false attack. Now, the information that I gave you was from a member of the member of the press in Iran, which was the People's Mahajan of Iran, who has ties to John Bolton, were arrested trying to purchase speedboats similar to the ones that are used by the Iranian military, which is a terrorist group that was dubbed a terrorist group by the United States. And the United States sent the task force group over there to Iran, and before the people could, they had word. So basically what happened was that the United States said that they would use force on Iran. Whatever force necessary. John Bolton did. So John Bolton came out and said that there was a national security matter in Iran, and that U.S. Navy ships were going to be attacked. Well, it just so happens that the people that was going to attack the U.S. Navy was hired by the U.S. government to attack our own Navy. Well, it never happened because the people they hired to attack our own Navy ended up being arrested. So a war was averted in the last 2 days. John Bolton does plan on going to war with Iraq, or Iran. He does. So the orders didn't get carried out. So the action didn't get carried out. And once they found out the action didn't carried out, John Bolton and Mike Pompeo had to fly over to Iraq. And that's what happened there. So that's the reason why there was a whole plan set up there. So on Twitter, before any of this information came out, on Twitter, people were already talking about it. People had already been talking about it prior to when the orders were issued. This was 3 days ago. Prior to when the orders were issued for the John Bolton sent over the carriers. This is on the 6th. It says Bolton's Iranian thugs busted for planning a false flag attack on U.S. naval forces. That's not the only one. All lies, the U.S. tried to get some Iranians to attack U.S. soldiers. Yes, you read that right. The U.S. tried to attack our own soldiers in order to spark outrage so they'd have American support to go to war in Iran. Now, that was also on May the 6th. I don't know. There's no telling. When this, they're keeping this a hush hush because nobody's reporting this on anything. What you're seeing is what is all the evidence there is of it, besides the other reporter and the officials, the people who got arrested did get arrested, and they were a part of. I think they even come out and said we was going to do it. Axios. An article came out by another alternative media source called Axios brought it out. So,
where in the world is
this is the video, and even the mainstream media was confused on what was happening. And this is a video. This is a video when they found out Mike Pompeo. They didn't know where Mike Pompeo was. Nobody knew. The mainstream media was supposed to catch up with him in Germany. And Mike Pompeo left the media stranded in Germany and couldn't tell them nothing. And the mainstream media said they knew where he went, but they didn't know what it was about. And here's that video.
Where in the world is Secretary of State Mike Pompeo going? Even the reporters traveling with him right now do not know. One thing we do know is that he is not in Germany or headed there. That's because the Secretary of State abruptly canceled his meeting there today with the German Chancellor, Angela Merkel. What happened? Well, the State Department is only saying that it was because of, quote, pressing issues. But something so pressing that he essentially stood up one of America's key allies. CNN's Michelle Kaczynski, she's at the State Department, joining me now with much more. Michelle, what are you picking up? What's going on?
Yeah, well, it's not every day that we say that the Secretary of State abruptly changed his planned trip. We don't know exactly where he is right now, and we're not allowed to say where he's going, but that's the situation. So the State Department is saying very little, as you know. And reporters traveling with him were told, we can't tell you exactly where we're going. By the way, you might not be able to say where we are, what we're doing there, until after we leave that location. But the U.S. has made some very dramatic statements and moves over the last few days to counter Iran. It is possible then that this might have something to do with that. So as for the details, we are waiting. But I will say that the State Department and the U.S. government generally acts this way about travel only when the security situation is so sensitive that for safety reasons, they don't disclose locations, say to a war zone. So I'll statements and moves over the last few days to counter Iran. It is possible then
that's what happened after the attempted false flag event. That was the last thing that happened. And Mike Pompeo knew about it, and he went there. So, that's the last thing anybody ever heard about it. Nothing else has been said about it. So, you know, everybody was covering where the hell was Mike Pompeo at, but that's where Mike Pompeo went to. He went to Iraq because their false flag event got interrupted. We were supposed to, by now, we were supposed to be at war, basically. We were supposed to be at war, and it got interrupted. So, I've got about 4 more stories that I could cover, but you know what? I think I'm going to be done. And I think I'll do the rest of them tomorrow. So I appreciate everybody watching. I don't know how long it's been. Almost 2 hours, or about 2 hours. So I appreciate everybody watching the show. And Glenda, I appreciate you watching the show. And I would like to thank the new subscribers. I haven't got a chance to figure out who they are. But I just received an email today saying I had new subscribers. So I appreciate all my subscribers. And I apologize for not putting any videos up the last few weeks. I do have a doctor's appointment tomorrow. I have to go to the heart doctor. Or on Monday. But I'm sorry, on Monday. Nothing's wrong. But I go anyway because I'm getting to that age to where I have to worry about this stuff. And it sucks. So, I'm sure there's been sleeper cells in the United States since before the Cold War. I'm sure that countries have. I'm sure that when Obama started letting in all the Syrian refugees, I'm 100% positive that there's probably Middle Eastern sleeper cells in the United States. In the United States, there's Russian spies, there's Chinese spies, there's British spies, there's Cuban spies. There's probably every country has a spy here. I'm sure that China has a sleeper cell here. I know Russia does because Russia was the biggest ones about it. Russia used to train, and they probably do still train sleeper cells. I'm positive that I'm sure they still do. So, like I said, I've got about 4 more stories or 5 more news stories to do, so I'm going to do them tomorrow, and I hope everybody has enjoyed the show, and as I said, I apologize for not doing one for a while, and I hope you all have a good night. Glenda, I hope you have a good night. Say your prayers before you go to bed. I do. Pray for me, pray for my family. I'll do the same for you all. And like I said, I hope you all have a good night. And I hope you all have a good day tomorrow. So everybody, this is Disclosuretv. And we're out of here.
This is not a test.